Welcome to the Snoring Historian, the show pairing historical adventure with calming narration, because nothing eases you into sleep like a little civil disobedience. After all, revolutions make surprisingly good bedtime stories. Tonight, we journey through the extraordinary life of Harriet Tubman, a woman who fiercely demanded freedom, not only for herself, but also for family, friends, strangers, and people who had yet to recognize their own chains. So settle in comfortably and prepare to follow the courageous footsteps of a woman who took the hardest paths so that others might sleep easier. And before we begin, I'd love to hear from you. Who should we explore next on the Snoring Historian? Leave a comment with your favorite overlooked or legendary historical figure you'd like to hear about in a future episode. Harriet Tubman was born Araminta Ross around 1822 in Dorchester County, Maryland. Slaveholders rarely recorded the birthdays of enslaved people. They saw them as property, not people. Her mother, Harriet Ritt Green, was owned by Mary Brodess. Her father, Ben Ross, was owned by a nearby planter, Anthony Thompson. The couple had 9 children. 3 of them were sold away. Harriet never saw them again. As a child, nicknamed Minty, Harriet was hired out to other households without pay. She babysat, cleaned, and even trapped muskrats at age 5. Because nothing says childhood like wrangling swamp rodents before you can spell your own name. She was beaten, neglected, and discarded when sick. Her worth was measured in how much labor she could perform. In her early teens, she was struck in the head by a 2-pound metal weight meant for someone else. The injury nearly killed her and left her with lifelong symptoms, seizures, headaches, dizziness, and what she called sleeping spells, now believed to be narcoleptic episodes. But Harriet believed these were visions from God. She didn't just walk by faith, she practically had it on speed dial. In 1844, she married John Tubman, a free black man. She adopted the name Harriet in honor of her mother. But marriage didn't grant her freedom, and John wasn't exactly ready to flee with her. When she talked about escaping, he threatened to turn her in. In 1849, when her enslavers began talking about selling her, she left in the middle of the night, alone. No goodbye, no map, just a North Star, whispered prayers, and a strong wish that someone had invented GPS sooner. She traveled through marshes, woods, and small towns, aided by a network later known as the Underground Railroad, abolitionists, Quakers, and formerly enslaved people who hid, fed, and guided her. The journey was anything but direct. Songs held hidden meanings. Quilts served as coded maps. She walked for days, hid in barns and cellars, and forded rivers in freezing dark. Airbnb, this was not. Eventually, she reached Pennsylvania. She was free, but not content. Freedom for Harriet wasn't the goal, it was the beginning. Over the next 10 years, she returned to the South about 13 times. She rescued her brothers, her parents, nieces, nephews, and total strangers. She disguised herself. She drugged babies to keep them quiet. She carried a pistol, not just for slave catchers, but to discourage anyone from turning back. Her rule was simple. If you start the journey, you finish it. Despite being one of the most wanted fugitives in the South, Harriet Tubman was never caught, not once. When the Civil War broke out, Harriet didn't sit back. She joined the Union war effort as a nurse, using natural remedies to treat soldiers and refugees. Her treatments often worked better than the professional medicine of the time, which mostly involved amputation and yelling. She soon became a scout and spy for Union General David Hunter. Harriet mapped terrain, delivered messages, and organized networks of informants, enslaved people behind Confederate lines who risked everything to provide intelligence. Disguised as a cook or washerwoman, she gathered secrets like a human drone with zero margin for error. Her boldest moment came in June 1863, during the Combahee River Raid. She led Union troops up the Mind River, past Confederate outposts, and liberated over 750 enslaved people without a single casualty. Showcasing efficiency many Union generals surely envied. After the war, Harriet returned to Auburn, New York, where she had purchased land for her parents. Despite her wartime service, she received no pension and spent decades petitioning for recognition. She finally received $20 a month, barely enough to live on, and based on her husband's service, not her own. Undeterred, she opened the Harriet Tubman Home for the Aged, caring for elderly Black Americans with nowhere else to go. She paid for it with donations, speeches, baked goods, and sheer determination. She also became a prominent voice in the women's suffrage movement, sharing stages with Susan B. Anthony and Frederick Douglass. Her speeches were unscripted but powerful. She reminded audiences that she had faced whips and bullets. Surely she could handle a ballot. Her argument was simple. She didn't earn the right to vote. She had already paid for it in full. In her later years, the pain from her head injury worsened. She underwent brain surgery in Boston to relieve pressure. She refused anesthesia and bit down on a bullet, because why settle for a Tylenol when you can make future generations feel soft about Wi-Fi outages? She passed away in 1913, surrounded by friends, family, and people she had helped save. Her last words were, "I go to prepare a place for you." She was buried with full military honors. She never wore a uniform, but no one had to ask what side she fought for. In 2016, the U.S. Treasury proposed putting Harriet Tubman on the $20 bill, replacing Andrew Jackson, a woman who had once been owned, replacing a man who once owned people. She probably would have preferred the cash. The redesign was delayed, revived, and remains in limbo. But her legacy doesn't need a face on currency to carry value. Her name graces schools, highways, statues, and even a U.S. military base. But legacy isn't just about what's named after you, it's about who remembers you, who studies you, who keeps your torch lit. Harriet's story is now taught around the world. She's been depicted in films, books, plays, and yes, comic books. She's appeared in protest signs and pop lyrics. Her life is analyzed by military historians, theologians, and civil rights scholars alike. Countless children have dressed as her for school presentations, shawl, head wrap and all, wide-eyed and full of questions. How did she find the courage? How did she keep going? How did she know what to do? The truth is, she didn't always know. She just kept moving anyway. Tonight, if you're wondering whether one person can change anything, remember Harriet. She had no wealth, no title, and no map, just a mission. She freed bodies, she freed minds, and she reminded us that bravery doesn't mean having no fear. It means walking forward anyway. Before we go, let's take one more step into the ripple effects she left behind. Many of the people she rescued went on to change lives themselves, founding schools, fighting in wars, raising families rooted in freedom. Her influence wasn't just measured in rescues, it was multiplied through legacies. Harriet worked until the end, not for medals or monuments, but because the work was never done. Even in death, her name moved through marches, rallies, and freedom songs. From the Montgomery bus boycott to Black Lives Matter, Harriet wasn't nostalgia. She was momentum. Her faith? It wasn't passive. It was fire. It lit the way when maps ran out. It called her forward when fear told her to stay still. She didn't belong to the past. She belongs to the future. So if you ever need a reminder that small steps matter, that one life can shake the world, let Harriet Tubman be that reminder. Keep that light close. Thank you for listening to The Snoring Historian. If you enjoyed this journey, please like, subscribe, and share it with someone who could use a story like this tonight. Rest well, you've earned it, and good night.